Hey everybody, Ben Miller from SniffWiFi here, and I just want to try out this little video blog thing for everybody so I can try to explain what looks like happened yesterday at the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, where Steve Jobs had a little bit of a problem with his Wi-Fi and sort of why it's so important to try to get your Wi-Fi set up correctly, especially for large enterprise deployment. For those of you who may have missed what went on yesterday, the basic problem was that Steve Jobs was unable to get a consistent Wi-Fi connection to the new iPhone 4 to be able to do demonstrations, to be able to pull up web pages, to be able to do video conferencing, all sorts of network-based stuff. So to kind of draw what it looked like, we have our little stage here where they have some type of wireless access point giving coverage to kind of a large area. The difficulty Steve Jobs was having is that a lot of people had their own wireless access points kind of off in the audience. What Steve pointed out was probably correct. A lot of people using the MiFi, little personal hotspot, allows you to get on the web a little bit easier if you're kind of out and about and you're not sure how well your Wi-Fi coverage is going to work. Okay. So the problem he was having is that the stage Wi-Fi was kind of unable to get a signal because of the Wi-Fi access points out in the audience. Now, it's important to know sort of why this is happening. A lot of times this sort of gets called interference, but it's not necessarily exactly interference. Wi-Fi networks have a protocol called CSMA-CA, or Carrier Sense Multiple Access Collision Avoidance. What this protocol allows Wi-Fi devices to do is share a wireless channel. So even if Steve Jobs had his Wi-Fi access point set up on, say, channel number 1, and a bunch of people in the audience had their MiFi set up on channel 1, those networks would still share channel 1, and they would sort of take turns with each other when they send and receive. Okay? So it is possible to set up Wi-Fi with a large number of devices and have them share, but the problem that he was running into is that so many devices were acting as base stations that he ran into a problem that's commonly called near-far. The near-far problem is where you have some devices on a channel that are relatively far from a wireless access point, some devices that are very close to a wireless access point, and the end result is a lot of failed transmissions. So I'm going to kind of erase my little picture here and show you guys what near-far can sometimes look like. As part of the process of getting devices to share a wireless channel, devices have to be able to stay quiet when a different device is transmitting. So I have my little access point here. It transmits to a wireless station. I'll draw it in the shape of a laptop. Those devices send and receive to one another, and then my third device, this third station here, kind of hears those transmissions going through the air, and my third device is able to stay quiet. Okay. Now, for this third device to be able to stay quiet, it has to be able to hear and understand a successful Wi-Fi transmission. Where that breaks down with the near-far is that my near device may be capable of sending data at a very high speed. Just using the example of 802.11n, most 802.11n devices can go at a speed up to 300 megabits per second. If my far device out here is not close enough to my wireless access point to be able to receive data at 300 megabits per second, be able to sort of understand it, that frame, when it reaches my far station, is going to look corrupt. When my station out here sees a corrupt frame, it may not necessarily stay quiet. My station may start to try to transmit on its own. You can have other problems having to do with near-far as well. Sometimes devices kind of stay quiet for too long. But the bottom line here is this can cause excessive collisions because when my near devices send and receive data to one another, the far devices may sort of not know how to stay quiet correctly. They may not see this as a correct wireless transmission. So here's where the problem occurred with sort of the Steve Jobs setup. When you have all of these extra wireless access points in the audience, you have a reporter sitting out here with his little You have a reporter with his laptop. And the MiFi and the laptop are very close to one another, so they're going to be able to send and receive data at a very high rate. Most MiFis have a maximum rate of 54 megabits per second, so you have these 54 megabit per second wireless transmissions that are successfully going between MiFi and laptop. The trouble is, by the time that data that's being sent by the MiFi reaches on stage where Steve Jobs is, it's sort of gone too long of a distance. It's a little bit too far away for Steve Jobs' access point or Steve Jobs' wireless device to be able to listen and stay quiet properly. Okay? And so that's why the MiFis in the audience are causing a significant problem. They send data successfully to the laptop they're connected to at 54 megabits per second, but then Steve Jobs' access point or other people's access points in the auditorium aren't able to read the data correctly at such a high speed from such a far distance, and it causes the channel to have excessive numbers of collisions and corruptions. Okay? As far as a solution for this, the solution for this is just to have fewer access points. The solution is to try to make sure that you always only have one access point per channel. This is a common problem I run into when doing consulting on enterprise networks. A lot of time people kind of design out their network with a certain ratio of stations per access point rather than stations per channel. So if you say, well, we want 30 users per access point, but you need to have 150 users in a given area, that's 5 access points, that's 5 channels. Wireless LANs only have 3 channels in the most commonly used frequency band, in the 2.4 gigahertz band. If you design one access point channel, you alleviate this problem somewhat. Another option is to use virtual cell technology. That's a proprietary technology where sort of all of your access points work together. That would not necessarily have solved Steve Jobs' problem because he wasn't in control of what the people in the audience were setting up. But if you're setting up your own enterprise network, the virtual cell could help. So hopefully this gives a little bit of an explanation of what was likely going wrong with the Worldwide Developers Conference presentation, and hopefully it illustrates why it's so helpful to just have one access point per channel when you're designing a wireless LAN. I'm Ben Miller for SniffWiFi.com, and I'll see y'all later.